Hey YouTube, what's up? Thanks for tuning in. The Rockwin Hobby Plus CR-18P. In this video, I will take a deep look inside into this new awesome truck. We will disassemble it, check the portal gears, check the transmission, check the central transmission, if there are bushings, bearings, greased, compare to other trucks, to the FCX24 and to the old Hobby Plus CR-18s, compare the low speed performance, which is awesome in this new truck, and we will check the receiver ESC combination. I will also compare the driving performance, the low speed performance of the Rockwin to the FCX24 and to the old Hobby Plus CR-18s. So this is an old CR-18, and check the noise. You can already hear it. This model has a 0-30 motor only, and that's about as low as I can go, and climbing a step let's trim it a little bit. So it doesn't have super bad low speed modulation, but not really good either. And it makes annoying noise. And the new Rockwin with the new electronics, check it out. Unfortunately, you can hear a little bit of whining, but it's super nice climbing and super nice low speed modulation. You see, I nearly do not have to pull the trigger to climb this step. And let's compare it to the FCX24 in first gear, of course, which should have the same electronics, but obviously not. There is no whining at all, or a super little bit of whining. Performance is about the same. That's of course in first gear. You hear the noise? It can climb super easily with nearly no throttle input, so super good low speed modulation. Of course, we also can compare this CR-18, which is upgraded and has a German ESC, so there is no whining at all, but it has super heavy wheels, so I do have to move the trigger a tiny little bit, but probably with those super light stock wheels this would be the same, but no whining at all, of course. CR-18 upgraded, slowest speed possible. Yeah, awesome performance. But the new Rockwin, absolutely awesome too. We will see with upgraded heavier tires if it's, check this out, immediately starts. Maybe it's not possible to go as slow, but it starts and it's so super light. A little bit of throttle input and then it will climb this step super slowly. But the FCX24, it has a second and first gear, so in first gear, let's check this out. Fantastic. And check this out, absolutely awesome. so I don't have to move the trigger nearly not at all. Absolutely fantastic. But first gear, that's maximum speed in first gear of the FCX24, and the Rockwan is not fast but significantly faster. So first and second gear of course are an improvement. There are downsides: further servo, high center of gravity, more techniques. But for the, oh, I do have the wrong radio. For the low speed performance, of course the first gear is fantastic. Wow. Even if that's, this bumper is a big downside for the approach angle. See, it hangs on my bumper. Awesome, awesome, awesome. There's so many of those trucks. This was not good at all. Hey man. That's an old Hobby Plus CR-18 with new electronics. Okay, and now let's check the radio again. The functions of the receiver and the light functions. Therefore I will remove the body. Should be easiest by removing those two screws here. And the body pins. And here it is. And we see, oh, it's still on. The receiver unit is, that's receiver ESC unit. Receiver ESC light controller unit is exactly the same as in the FCX24. That's the same FlySky radio. So the receiver should also bind to the FlySky radio, probably. And I will show that it does. So the black radio is from the Rockwan, the dark bluish radio is from the FCX24, and FCX24 radio binding is easy. You have to press the bind button, fast flashing, switch it on, bound. So the receiver of the Rockwan works with the radio of the FCX24, and the receiver, no, the radio of the Rockwan, bind mode, fast flashing, does also work with the FCX24 receiver. And because we know this, we see something here. The FCX24 has a channel 3 and a channel 4, so probably also the Rockwan should have this, and those should be those plugs here for channel 3 and channel 4, channel 1 steering. And what I can see here, that's super nice, the plugs for servos and lights on the receiver unit have 1.25 millimeter and distance of the pins and are JST-GH but the servo does not have a plug like in the FCX24 with those tiny plugs, but it has a normal servo plug and an adapter, what you can see here. And here we have channel 3 and channel 4. Will those work? Therefore I will simply connect for test purposes only two normal servos to channel 3 and channel 4. But first we will have to bind it again to its radio. Yes, it's bound. And now let's check if channel 3 and channel 4 work. They should. At least there is power. So two servos connected. Channel 3 is this 2 position button here. Works, nice. And channel 4. Short press on the channel 4 button is for light control, but you have to press it in the FCX24 2 seconds. And then, yes, it works. So we can use channel 3 and channel 4 for further functions. That's super cool. For example, for a light switch, because there are no lights here in those fog lights, even with the disc, I guess those are fog lights. Even if the description says fog lights on off, I read the description, I know I'm ashamed, fog lights on off, but it is not the case that there are further lights than the front main beams, turning lights, and 4 LEDs, 2 red rear lights, and 2 turning lights in the rear. So I don't know why they talk about fog lights. The radio does have the same functions. So you have those switches here. The left switch is for crawler mode up or for forward reverse brake mode. So in crawler mode there is no reverse light. Let's remove those servos. So no brake light, no reverse light, and if you switch this left to the bottom position, what we want, then we have forward brake reverse, so I can't go directly from forward to reverse, but therefore we have nice brake lights. Maybe I shouldn't have removed the body. Okay, brake lights only in forward brake reverse. Come on, not in crawler mode. The second switch should be down because that's LiPo or nickel metal hydride. Up is nickel metal hydride. We have LiPos. And third and fourth switch, at least in the FCX24, are for drag brake. So both down is drag brake 0%, both up is drag brake 100%, and then you can go to 50 and 75. However, in the rock van there seems always to be 100% drag brake. Check this out. Now we have the both switches on the bottom position, and if I change both to up, what is 100, there is no change at all. And the light functions, as already mentioned, controlled by channel 4, brake light only in forward brake reverse mode, and one click main beams on, turning lights second click main beams 100%, so stronger, turning light fourth click main beams 100% and hazard lights, and fifth click everything off but still turning light, and first position, I assume that's first position, no turning light and no reverse, no light at all. In crawler mode and in forward brake reverse mode, no lights, but come on, show it, you're on camera, brake lights. And we go back to crawler mode, and the further functions the same as in the FCX24, dual rate for throttle and steering, and trim for throttle and steering, steering reverse, throttle reverse. So now I will totally remove the body because we go into the guts, but therefore I will remove all the light plugs. To make this easier to find which one belong to which position, I mark them here, here, here on the side. That's the servo, and the one with 4 contacts. We do it that way, so it's easier. And take care, they go out super hard, so don't pull hard, use forceps if it's too hard, otherwise you will break those tiny plugs. With a little bit of movement but super slightly pulling, mostly this works that way. Yes, it works. Okay. So now chassis without body. 3 light plugs for turning lights and front beams and rear lights and brake lights. No fog lights, but what's nice, channel 3 and 4 works, so we can use a simple on-off switch for lights and put LEDs here into those fog lights too and control them by channel 4 or channel 3. And now let's check the tires. They have nice caps which cover the wheel nuts. Looking good. And we will need a 5mm to remove the tires. And those tires are no 1-inch tires and no 1-inch rims. Those are larger, they are 1.2 inch. And they are beadlock wheels. That's quite nice, but normal tires from 1-inch wheels won't fit. But those larger rims, brass rims for the Rock Hobby Katana and whatnot, which also do have larger rims, maybe fit. Let's test this out and let's check if they have foams inside. Unfortunately, Phillips head screws all around, plastic beadlock wheels or rims, Nice plastic beadlock rims, not more to say. As in all the Hobby Plus trucks, which normally do have smaller ones, or the Rokkobi Katana, which have bigger ones. And let's compare the inner ring. It seems a tiny little bit larger than this brass ring. And the wheel also seems to be larger. Oh man, they are even larger. I don't know if those will fit. Tires are really nice and soft compound. They are not super sticky, but they are not bad either. And they do have foams inside. So nice tires, but not perfect tires. Better tires will for sure be an upgrade. But I'm interested if those super heavy wheels or rims would fit. And it seems this could work. Maybe not. Would be a shame. Then we would have to use upgrade rims and tires, maybe with a little bit of wiggling around. I will test it. So no, unfortunately, those brass rims for the Rokkobi Katana will not work. So we are able to use those nice tires only with the stock rims. They look good, but they are plastic, and a little bit of wheel weight for sure would be an upgrade. So let me assemble those again and remove all the other tires. So all tires removed. Take care on the hex, 7mm hex. On each axle there sit 2 small shims. So those seem to be necessary, probably otherwise tires could touch. Okay, here I did already lose them. And on the other side too. So 4 shims. And let's check the portal axles. Of course I will compare those to the FCX24 portals later. If normal beadlock wheels we use for the SCX24 would fit. So those, for example, quite popular, those shiny rims. And it seems that's probably not possible. No, they will touch the portal cover. Those super popular in Jura, whatever, you get them in many different colors. They wouldn't fit either. Those are RC 4-wheel drive stamped steel 1.0s. They, depending on the but this seems to be possible. Depending on the tire, with a narrow tire, but then I assume that the stamped steel with extra width from Injora will fit. I use those in the FCX24. Yes, those fit nicely if the tires too wide, but those should fit. So unfortunately it's not possible to use a lot of different wheels here. Same as in the FCX24, FCX, SCX, but those do not touch, no. If you squeeze them. So those Injora stamped steel with the, I guess, 3.3 millimeter negative offset, so sitting wider outside, they fit, and probably that's also the reason why those shims are here. So maybe with more shims this would be possible to use different rims. For sure the normal stamped steel from RC 4-wheel drive, very similar to the normal ones from Injora, and there is also quite a bit of thread here, so 1-2 millimeter more outside would easily be possible. Same problems as in the FCX24, and those shims probably will be lost easily. Okay, I seem already to have lost one. Or is it maybe in a rim? No. Those seem to be normal 3 millimeter, I guess, rims. So not a big deal to lose those if you have those. Okay, we don't want inch, we want millimeter. Yes, 3 millimeter. So not a big deal. And the 7 millimeter hex. Wow, those sit firmly. Come on. Do all sit that firm? Okay, they sit really firmly. Wow. And here the tiny pin. So here's the portal cover, rear axle, front axle, and this seems that there are bushings inside. And here is a rear portal axle of an FCX24, and you see they are very similar but not the same. They are quite a bit of different. So the FCX24 does have this ring here so that you can mount the tires really firmly without touching anything here. That's not the case. And the axle, the thread, is it the same? 3 millimeter? No, even not the same diameter. That's an M2.5, so 2.5 millimeter in the Rock Van in the Hobby Plus and 3 millimeter in the FCX24, so totally different. Okay, but there should be metal gears inside, and it seems that there are bushings. Let's check the gears in the transmission. And before I take off axles and central gearbox, let's take a quick look to the shocks. Those are those cheapo shocks that do come with all CR-18s, but the builder's kit and the CR-24s. But I meanwhile found, those are some of those cheapos, that they are a little bit shorter. And let's check which upgrade shocks are possible. Let's take one shock off. This spacer is important, and it's always a pain to get those off. No, super easy. So here are the super simple and honestly, in my opinion, ugly shocks, and those are the black and red ones that do come with the CR24s, CR18, different springs, and they are maybe 7-8 mil longer. Upgrade shocks. Meanwhile, the problem always is this double ball screw in Hobby Plus trucks, but it's the same in all those FMS 1 to 18th and also in the FCX24. This screw holds the link and the shock, so you will need a long 2mm screw and one of those ball joints or balls, 4mm, with hole for a 2mm screw to mount the link and the shock, because I don't know of any but the ECRC shocks that will fit to those 4mm balls. I really like those ECRC shocks. Those are those shocks coming with the ECRC models, and meanwhile with nearly all of the new FMS raw copy 1 to 18th models. And they do come with different springs, so softer, some models with soft and hard for front and rear. They do not perform much better, but you can open them and easily make an oil-filled shock mod by gluing silicone O-rings and filling them with oil. I do have made a video about this, and I will again show you how well those shocks do perform. That's a ECRC chassis from Arizona, and those are the stock shocks oil-filled mod. Check this out. They perform super nice, and I really like them, and mine work perfectly. So check the oil-filled shock mod video. I made two, one for the ECRC shocks and a very similar one for the Mini C 4x4 shocks. And of course there are meanwhile upgrade shocks available with those 2mm screws. FCX24 shocks will not work because they do have 1.4mm screws. You maybe could widen those ball joints, but that's a very delicate operation from 1.4 to 2mm. And what's important, if you get those shocks, you have to check that you get those, where is the, I took it off from here, those ball joints here for the links. So those tiny brass parts to mount the link, so that way you can use the 2mm screw, because if you would screw it directly to the link, this would be very loose. I do have metal shocks for the FCX24 and Katana, whatever. There are several types available. Meanwhile, those ones and those ones, those worked really super hard, but after filling them with oil, they work nicely now. Those do not yet have oil inside. They look okay. Those are also a little bit longer than the stock shocks. So, and the stock shock is mounted here in the center position, but if you mount the upgrade shocks maybe here, that's a little bit of an angled position, then they should work. I won't mount those shocks now as an upgrade because I want to test the rock van with the stock shocks and stock tires first. Let's mount this shock, but first I want to check how did I mount the upgrade shocks. in the ECRC. No, they simply sit that way and work nicely. Let's try this out. A little bit of a shimmer shrink tube would be nice. Phillips head here you would like and could change, and I will change to hex. What is much easier to mount. So in those new FMS shocks, maybe we should use a little bit of shrink tube. Okay. What's the problem here? No, it sits. It can move. Okay. Maybe an additional shim is necessary. And this seems to be quite okay. And here it sits a little bit higher. So maybe mount them to this position here. I don't know of any shocks that are that short. Even those ones are significantly longer. And this will be my upgrade for the rock van. I will use those ECRC FMS plastic shocks with an oil-filled shock mod. I will check in a later video how the rock van looks with those longer shocks, but those stock shocks for sure are not good, and they are hardly upgradable with a little bit of grease or something. Well, we will see. So stock shocks mounted again, and with the upgrade shocks here, that's an FCX24 chassis I found. I also had to use some shims to make those shocks work here, and that's the same that will probably be necessary here in the rock van. However, there is a lot of room here, so it's probably not difficult to use the longer shocks and make an additional hole here in a 5mm, 7mm up to not change the ride height of the truck. And before I take axles and central transmission off, let's compare or check if those portal axles of the rock van would also fit to Hobby Plus CR-18 or ECRC or FMS 1 to 18th models. This question was asked under my first video, I guess. So this is a CR-18 chassis, and since the chassis is exactly the same in the rock van, check it out. Also links seem to be exactly the same. Those axles should fit or will fit to trucks with CR-18 chassis, and there is one truck, the Rock Hobby Katana, with the Atlas 6x6 FMS. Those two do have CR-18 chassis. So this should be no problem at all, but the rock van is simply wider. The axles are wider than the axles of the CR-18s. And here I do have a Katana, but that's ECRC body shell, and we see that the tires, come on, will stick out quite a bit on the side. Compared to a original stock chassis where the tires don't really stick out of the fenders a lot. Here's the katana. And here's the rock van. Won't be super scale then, but it will fit. And in the ECRC, here's a ECRC chassis. The shafts are a little bit different. And the diameter of the axle here is also wider, I guess. I will check this after taking off the axles, if the shafts of the ECRC and the later FMS models will fit to the shafts of the rock van portal axles. And now let's take out the central transmission and the axles and then take a deep look inside, check the gears. Taking out the central transmission is super easy. Only 3 Phillips head screws here you have to remove and then you can take it out. And taking off the axles, I found it easiest to simply unscrew. Here you need a 1.5 millimeter hex driver, the shock screws and the screws that hold the upper links, which are also Phillips head here. So I will take those off now and then let's check. So I removed those 3 Phillips head screws and now it's super simple to take out the central transmission with the motor, 2 millimeter JST-PH plug, and now I will remove the axles. So rear axle, front axle, central transmission. I find it easiest to simply remove, unscrew the steering links and also the panhard bar to take out the front axle. Those are not totally similar mounted or the same way to the upper links, however, are not the same way mounted to the chassis as the upper links in the CR-18s. So while in the CR-18s there are 2 ball screws here on this position, in the rock van there is a long screw with a nut, again Phillips head screw, which holds the upper links on the left and on the right side, and that's on the front and on the rear axle. Now let's check. Here I do have a ECRC Patriot rear axle. You see it's by far not as wide, but let's check if the drive shafts fit to the drive shafts of the rock van. The rear drive shafts seem to fit. The front drive shaft, that's the rear axle. However, this goes quite hard, but let's take a drive shaft off and check the diameter of the shaft here. So that's a small Phillips head screw, as in many trucks, but much better than a pin with O-ring. That's the rear drive shaft of the rock van, or the shaft that holds it. we do already see here is a bushing, and the diameter is 3 millimeter. And in the ECRC and the later FMS models, let's check it. The ECRC only does have plastic here. And it is much wider. So 4 millimeter. So it will, the drive shaft of the rock van will no way fit to the ECRC models. They are much sturdier here. So the rear axles of the rock van with its portals compared to the FCX24, quite a bit of difference. Not the same, no copy at all. We will compare those. I will take off the covers, of course, a bit later, but let's start with the transmission, the central transmission. And this seems to be a completely normal CR-18 or CR-24 central transmission. Let's check the gears. Let's take it apart. First, the front cover. Only 3 screws. 1, 2, 3. But to take it off, you have to take off the drive shaft before too. So cover off, and plastic spur gear, but it's not a completely normal CR-18 or CR-24 transmission, because there's a brass pinion gear, and the CR-18s and CR-24s do come with a 12-tooth plastic pinion gear. How many tooth does this have? I will take a picture and count it now. It's a normal 12-tooth pinion, so exactly the same transmission as in the CR-18, but brass pinion gear. I won't take off the motor. That's the very good Hobby Plus CR-18 torque motor with 55 teeth, 0.50 sized. I tested this in my motor tests. I really liked it. And now let's take off the back, but therefore I again have to take off the shaft, and first you have to take off this screw here and then the screws there. So long screw in the center of the front side. 1, 2, 3 screws for removal to get the cover off. So here it is. Come on, don't get, everything falls out, and we see bushings all around, but then I do already know what bushings we do need, because if that's a normal CR-18 transmission, we will need 6 bushings, small ones. Those are those ones here, with an inner diameter of 2 millimeter, outer diameter 5 millimeter, and a width of 2.5 millimeter, and 2 bushings 3 millimeter, 6 millimeter, 2.5 millimeter. And I won't tune my rock van now, but I will exchange the bushings to ball bearings. Here's my magic ball bearing box, and I will take those out now. What you can see, they are really nicely greased. All gears are nicely greased. So here they are, 6 2x5 by 2.5, and 2 larger ones, 3x6 by 2.5. Probably we'll use those or need those in the axles too, if there are also only bushings, no ball bearings. And the large ones are for the large gear here. 1. Here's a shim. There's quite a lot of shimming here going on. and then the 2 by 5 by 2.5 come out. That's it. Okay, I don't even grease those because they are really nicely greased. And let's close it again. Okay. Everything clean, everything nice, everything with ball bearings now. So reassembled, everything nice. Now with ball bearings, I will give you a list of all ball bearings needed at the end. And now let's check the portal axles. Let's start with the rear axles and also compare it to the FCX24. I guess many of you are interested. 4 screws, 4 Phillips head screws to take off the cover. Nicely greased, nicely greased. Screws falling out. Of course, bushings, no ball bearings. And pins for both gears. So quite delicate. Pins here. Metal gears. And also a pin here for the upper gear. Boing. And bushings all around. And now let's open a FCX24 portal cover to compare those. Here it is. They have nice hex screws, no Phillips head screws. Come on. They are totally different construction. You see, you can't get the shaft out here in the FCX24 because it has this wider area, this kind of shim, fixed shim, which makes it easily possible to really firmly mount the tires or the wheels. And in the rock van, that's not the case. So here are the rock van portal gears, and here are the, on the left side, the FCX24 portal gears. I know those have 14 teeth. The larger one, the smaller one. The old ones, still in my FCX24, do have only 12 teeth, and those do have. So the small gear in the rock van does have 15 teeth, and the larger ones I won't count now, but there is no similarity at all. That are totally different constructions. And the rock van does have bushings all around. So I will take the bushings out and exchange them against ball bearings. Let me do this off camera. So here they are. On each portal side we need 4 ball bearings, 3 mm inner diameter, 6 mm outer diameter and 2.5 mm width. This means only for the portals we need 16 of those. And here are, out of my magic box, 16 ball bearings, 3x6 by 2.5, because in the front portal covers it's the same. Is it? No, this does not look the same. So let's disassemble the front portal cover. This goes out easily with a kind of shim, not to lose this. No, in the front we need 1, 2, nicely creased, 3, and a larger one. We need a nice universal steering, a super large one. I hope I do have such a bearing here. Come on. So that's a much larger bearing with the dimensions of 8 by 12 by 3.5. I don't think I have such a ball bearing. So what a pity, I do not have 8 by 12 by 3.5 millimeter ball bearings. Would need 2. I have to order them, or I will let the bushings, we will see. So we need for the portals only then 16 of the small ones, 3, 6, 2, 5, and 2 large ones, 8, 12, 3.5. I will put the ball bearings in now and assemble the portals again, and then we will take a look in the center transmission. It's no good idea to assemble the portals first. I removed both portals on the rear axle, of course the drive shaft and the portal cover, or the diff cover. Not the portal, the diff cover is simply mounted by 4 screws, and here inside are the gears, and those are really nicely greased metal gears. Come out. They are really nicely greased. And here inside the pineapple gear with 2 ball bearings here, so that's a difference to the FCX24, because the FCX24 does only have 1 ball bearing here, and the Rockvan does have 2 ball bearings here, and here we need 2 more of the, that's the same 3 mm by 6 mm by 2.5 mm ball bearings. So we need for front and rear axle additionally 2 of those, while in, for example, the CR-18s and CR-24s we only need, there's only 1 bushing and not 2, so that's quite nice and sturdy inside and outside, and those are super nicely geared. And For the main gears or the large gears, there we need for front and rear axle. Let's check how large those are. 5, again a new dimension, by 8 by 2.5. 5 by 8 by 2.5. And does my magic box contain 5 by 8 by 2.5? Yes, it does. So, but not many. We need 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I hope I calculated correctly, and then I will tell you the numbers and the dimensions or sizes of ball bearings you will need for totally replacing the bearings, the bushings to bearings. So that's the rear axle, central transmission, how do you call this? 3 by 6 by 2.5, 2 pieces, one here and one there. That's nice. That's one of the few trucks that does have 2 ball bearings here and 2 large ones, 5 by 8 by 2.5. Nicely greased metal gears. And then simply close the diff cover again with 4 screws. So reassembling the portal gears, they were not greased. I'm not totally sure, but they seem maybe a tiny little bit. Well, no, they seem to be dry, so I used marine grease, put a little bit grease inside, and then simply close the covers and screw them, close them again. Don't think you want to see this. So on the other side, not to be unfair, they are greased here. So yes, they are greased, and it seems that you can take off the portals, what I did not see in the beginning. So here's a screw, and if there's a screw we can unscrew. I have to do this. What happens? 1, and probably there's a second one. Yes, you won't see it because there is grease. So of course you can remove the portals, my bad, and therefore you don't have to you have to disassemble the total portal cover to take this off, to take the axles off, and to open the diff cover. Okie dokie. So here's the rear axle fully equipped now with ball bearings. Of course it runs much smoother now, but it does really run super smooth, so no complaints. Plastic quality, I'm not a specialist, I don't know if that's good or bad, but it does not look cheap. It looks really quite sturdy, and 2 ball bearings here on the output of the shaft. That's better than in the FCX24 and in all the other Hobby Plus and Rock Hobby and FMS 1 to 18th. And of course in the front axle it's absolutely the same. You see here gears again nicely greased, and again I need the ball bearings, the large ones, and I wanted to tell you what number of ball bearings you need. And I will list it and I will read it up. I wrote it up here now. So from the 3 inner diameter by 6 outer diameter and 2.5, all in all 20. 2 for the central transmission or the central gearbox, then 10 for the rear axle, 8 for the portals and 2 for the pineapple gear here, and 8 for the front axle, also 2 for the pineapple gear, but only 6 for the portals, because in the front portals we need additionally 2 8 inner diameter by 12 by 3.5 millimeter. Those bearings I do not have at home, unfortunately. Then we need 6 small 2 by 5 by 2.5 for the central gearbox, the same as in all CR24 CR18s. And we need 4 pieces, 5 inner diameter by 8 by 2.5. Those are those ones for the main gears. Those are all in all quite a lot of bearings. And I guess I will stop this video now, because you do not want to see me reassemble the whole truck. Of course I will reassemble the whole truck, and then I will make a test, probably a microcrawler capability test in stock form, only with ball bearings. I don't think this will affect the results so much. And then I plan to do probably a shock upgrade, oil filled shock mode, and I for sure wanna use channel 4 and light up those fog lights or whatever they are. That's easy to do. And I wanna exchange the front beams from this cold white color to warm white, because I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this type of van is not new. That's quite an old van from the 80s or whatever. I'm not a car specialist, and they didn't have those new super bright, super cold lights. They did have the old lights warm white. So that's what I will do. And of course I hope to see you in one of those next videos. If I forgot something, tell me. I can't think of anything right now. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope to see you in the next video. I'll be back.